How excited are you for spring? Just getting out there with the new pieces that have been added to this team and also with your new role.
I always love spring ball because you get back to basics. You're not scheming the defense. You're going back to implementing what you want to do, highlighting things that they do well, but also working on everything we don't do as well. So take that time to really get full development in playing football.
You've done this before where you've been the O-line coach and an OC. How does it, the day-to-day of a practice, like a practice schedule, when you are doing team stuff, I assume you're still mainly concentrating on the offensive line during the practice and then you go on film and watch the other positions? How does that work?
Very similar to like if I'm the quarterback coach and I'm the OC, I watch the quarterbacks, and then when I get in, I watch the film for the receivers, and it just connected piece is just a different piece. So I'm the O-line coach, so I focus a lot on the box, the O-line, tight ends, running back, and I can see that in the vision, but then I go back and watch the outsides, but also, I can tell what's going on based on the result of the play, so a lot of that is all, and then it might be segments where we're doing half line, or, we're doing a certain part of practice where I get to watch something else, so it's very similar to, any other position that does it. I'm just more focused on that position.
But during the course of a practice, if a running back doesn't hit the hole they're supposed to have.
I knew that before I was coordinator.
Well, of course, I knew it. But they're all your players now. I mean, I know that y'all had a connection with them before anyway, but
I still have a personal responsibility to the guys that I coach. Just like most coordinators, there are not many walk-around coordinators. Usually, coordinators does have a responsibility of a position, so that is the responsibility that helps the entire offense, but you also have the overall big picture of organization and how we want to run things and how we can do things in practice to get everybody better or highlight something that individual group might need more. So hey, let's get some more reps of this so we can fix this group or things like that. I think that's kind of what it more encompasses.
How beneficial is staff continuity, familiarity with one another, with operating in that manner, with all of you kind of understanding what each person's looking for?
Continuity is always good if you're with a group of guys that wants to push each other even more, because continuity can build comfort. So you still want to maximize each other and push each other. So having the continuity is good because you're hearing the consistent voice, consistent coaching, consistent messaging. But you also want to be where you kind of stress each other a little bit to keep growing and keep getting better. And I think Coach Rivera does a good job of that.
What's Caden brought to your group?
What I like about Caden is his serious attitude. He's been through it. He comes from a good program, so he knows what he wants. He knows what it looks like. And he also is open. He wants to learn more. He wants to be pushed more. So it's kind of that coach me, coach mentality where he's up in my office more than I can, sometimes I see him in there, I'm like, you might as well get a sleeping bag, because he wants to be up there all the time. He wants to soak up knowledge. He wants to grab me after practice. He understands that grown man mentality of getting it all while you can.
As a new guy in Caden, contending for the center spot, how important is this spring for him building that chemistry with the guys, the quarterbacks, and all of that?
Yeah, they do a lot of that off and on the field, the spring, and he wants to. But the big thing about spring is more development than it is more evaluation before we're going into a depth chart. That's for more hype and things like that. But we just try to get the guys that we have right now that are repping. They're all rep evenly. The ones and the twos and threes, everybody getting equal reps. So it's more of developing what we have. It's maximizing what it could be. Not much more depth chart or competing, but just more, let's get him the best he can be. That kind of comes later.
How much more of a luxury with having more experience and also some new pieces, Cade and Bless, for example, is it finding your best five than maybe you've had to do the last two?
But just more of a better standard of how we want our room to operate, because we have guys that have been there with me that know what it needs to look like and what I expect. So I would say guys are just more comfortable because they're not having to rotate in too many other positions, but we still cross-train. So that's always going to be a part of it. So I think it's just having more guys. We have more guys than we ever had in a spring practice where we can do ones, twos, threes, and possibly another set. I think more than that, that probably helps them probably get a little bit more break, to be honest with you. Probably taking too many reps.
How big is that, man, to have most of, if not all of your guys able to practice in the spring? Just for competition purposes, for depth chart purposes, all of it.
All of it. You don't want to miss a rep on opportunity. You have limited opportunities to get better at this game. Injury halts that a lot, and you got to catch up. So having everybody available to get better and to work, it just helps everybody else get better, because like we talk about competition, you still got a little bit in you when you see somebody else pushing a little bit further. So you see that out the corner of your eye, you say, well, let me do a little bit more too. So there's still a competition in it, but there's also, we just got to maximize and get better. Whatever we are deficient in, we need to really focus on that and get after it.
Having two guys that are experienced at center, that's got to be good going into a season. Where last year you had some disrupted practices because of injuries at center.
Yeah, there are not many teams in the country that can lose 1 and 2. And at one point we lost 1 and 2. We lost both guys that have started a bunch of games. They're playing center. They both were down, or battling through injuries or battling through small nagging deals. So what that did was that maximized me as a coach. So now that was a learning experience for me, where I had guys that could snap it, but I didn't maximize the reps of other guys that could, so you wouldn't have those disastrous practice. So a lot of that's on me. So what I had to do is develop more guys that can snap the football, recruit to that, and also make sure we are never in that situation again.
With these two, will you keep them at center, or you mentioned cross training?
Primarily this spring they'll be working at center.
Okay. Then you get to the fall, then you start
possibly more. Now I'm not saying that they won't rep at other positions, because there's different parts of practice where in team you might say all center. But in individual, you might say how you can rep guards, you can work these certain techniques at guard, you can work these techniques at tackle. So there is some cross-training element to it, or I might quiz them and mean, say, what does the guard have here? There's still some of that, but actual rep taking, they're mostly going to take the center reps.
How much does your new role change kind of your responsibilities out of practice, or is most of those change coming off the field in the meeting rooms, film, stuff like that?
Say that one more time.
How much does your new role change kind of your in-practice responsibilities, or is it more off field?
Not much in practice, because I'm still responsible for the group that I coach, like all coordinators. I just think more of the approach of how we want to attack in the planning of practice. I'm a lot more involved in that, like saying, okay, where do we want to go? What do we want to do? What do we want to highlight? What do we want to change? Being more vocal and having a little bit more authority in those decisions.